All right, we are live and we are going to start. Hey everyone, it's time for Geocache Talk. Whether you're at work, in the car, wherever you are, we hope you enjoy the show. Please give it a like and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play so that you can get all the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. Big thanks to the Travel Bugs for the music and my patrons, Doug Jones, Joshua and Caleb Slinkard, Tom Brotherman, Jeff Arbaugh, Deborah Burris, Joshua Johnson, Nick Hubbard, Andrew Tiepkin, Cecilia Perez, Sydney Sawyer, Valena Mahar, and my new patrons, Jane Jewell, Dano Pugach, Memphis Mafia, Craig Michelle, and the Geo Gearheads. If you'd like to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com for more details, /geocache talk for more details. Patrons get path tags, coins, and other geocaching swag during the year, as well as invites to special events only for patrons. Support levels start at as little as $3 a month. We're going to jump right in because we've got a big show today, and we're going to try to fit it all into 1 hour. So we're going to jump right into show number 27 for Sunday, December 11th, as I welcome my friend Keith Petrus to the show. Welcome to Geocache Talk.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate you being on. And we got so much. So first I want to do a couple notes, news, and then we'll get right into it. So first I want to give an update on last week. We ended up raising $1,000 for St. Jude's on the Podcast of Hope. So thanks to everyone, yay, for being a part of last week. And just a wonderful, I'm really just thankful for everybody who watched the show, who was on the show, and just it was just more than I could ever hope or dream. And so it was really turned out wonderful, and I'm just really thankful for everybody. So the link is still live in case anybody is interested or still wants to participate in that event. It's the website's events.stjude.org//geocache talk. Still up. So if you do want to give as part of that Podcast of Hope, you sure can. All right. So I've asked for a couple things that I need people to send me. First was New Year's resolution. So if you have a New Year's resolution, email me, and I'm going to add it to the website. We're creating a little list. I've got Tick Magnet sent me his. So I got theirs up on the website. So send me your New Year's resolutions. It'll be kind of fun to keep track of during the year for 2017. And send that to geocachetalk@gmail.com. Also send me your questions. I'm doing a special Christmas night show. So I'm not going to have on any guests that night. I really didn't want to burden anybody with being on, and so I'm just going to do a solo show. Probably won't be as long as a normal show of me rambling on, but anyway, if you want to join live, we'll take some questions live, but mostly I want to get questions ahead of time and get those prepared for the show. So send me your questions about Geocache Talk and how you think it's going, or you have questions about podcasting or geocaching, whatever you want to bring up. Send me your questions, and it might make it on the show. Another note is about Cachely. Cachely 2.0 came out this week, and Nick's going to be on the show in January to talk about 2.0. So if you haven't downloaded it, or if you want more information about Cachely, one of our cool sponsors, go over to cachely.com. And so tonight I have one of my sponsors on, which is Keith with FTF Magazine. So Keith, I want to bring up a couple quick items before we kind of get into other. Well, I tell you what, I'm gonna table a couple items about FTF Magazine. Actually, going to make an audible. We'll talk about a couple notes I'd made during that period of time. Let's first, Keith, you and I, we were together. We did a show on Catch and Release last year when we first got to kind of get to know each other, but whole new audience, some people who have obviously uh, familiar with that show, but some people who aren't, who are just kind of maybe getting to know you in the wonderful magazine. First, if you would talk a moment about how you even got involved in geocaching. Let's start with that. How did you even get involved with it?
Way back in, I think, 2008 or so, I used to follow along with Will Wheaton's blog back when
Yep.
he was really struggling to kind of like survive his Star Trek, the crashing of his Star Trek career.
Yep.
And he was talking about all the things he was doing, and mostly about his trying to get work. It was at a time when he was not very successful.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he was doing with his stepson was geocaching, and he only did it for a very short time.
Yeah, he did. Unfortunately, we should have stuck with it. But go ahead.
I know. I happened to see a few posts that he during the brief time he was doing it, and it kind of piqued my interest. And so I signed up for an account, and I went and I tried to find a cache near my home, and I don't think I was successful the first time around, and I think I dropped it for about a year until the geocaching app came out. I believe it was in 2009, because that's right about when I started getting really active. Mm-hmm. And once the app came out for the iPhone, that's when I really took off.
Sure.
But all inspired by Will Wheaton, of all people.
There's a few people who I think are surprised. If you go look at the list, now I don't know if all of them, all the celebrities that geocache, I know some of them have. I don't know if you caught, what is the guy's name? I'll think of it here in a second, but he was on the Tonight Show and talking about geocaching, about him and his son were geocaching. He was in the Wolverine movies.
Yeah, I remember that. He was the other bear-like guy.
Yeah, he was Sabretooth. I can't think
of his name either.
Somebody will remind us of that. But anyway, he was on there. So there are celebrities that geocache. It's kind of interesting. Next week, I'm going to have on the guy who basically invented Ms. Pac-Man. So it'll be fun having Doug McCrae on. He's kind of a celebrity. So, so from that, how did you end up creating the wonderful FTF magazine? I know there's a lot behind it, but kind of what's the genesis of how this kind of began?
Well, once I caught the geocaching bug, I started looking for sources of information, and naturally I thought, well, hey, there's probably a magazine out there somewhere. I'll subscribe to it so I can kind of follow along with my new hobby.
Yep.
And of course, there was no magazine at the time. Well, actually, there was a magazine, but it was a failed magazine. A whole other story.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I floated the idea around, to some of the people that I knew, since I'm a graphic designer already. I thought, well, I could, just create my own magazine. Mm-hmm. So I floated the idea, and everybody said I was crazy. Everybody said it wouldn't work, and it had been done before. And it's a horrible failure, and nobody wanted to read nobody wanted to read a paper magazine anymore.
Right.
Everything was done online, and somehow I've been able to make this thing work. It hasn't made me rich like I was hoping it would make me in the beginning, but right. It's definitely been a workable idea. It took me a while, but it's.
Well, I know I read them.
There you go.
I've been reading them for a while now, and I love all of them over the years. And some of the I'll be honest, I actually gave away a couple as prizes. So
that's
I kind of wish I
would have done
that. Yeah, you bet. There's so many things. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about the magazine. It is for me. It's you do a fabulous job. I like and I know this can't be easy to do, but you've got some wonderful photography in here. Just tremendous. I love the different articles. If anybody's, I mean, I don't know why anyone would not subscribe to this. I mean, it is just.
I don't either. I don't understand.
I don't understand. It's kind of like, but I mean, there's just expert stuff. There's stuff about how do I search for a geotour? I mean, there's
it try to pack as much into it as possible.
You do. The parts about from like Sunny and Sandy, the sound bites as they refer to them, just wonderful. I mean, you've got some great contributors. Except for Electric Water Boy, we're not going to really talk about him much.
Yeah, I know. Well, take what you can get.
I love to give Tom. I love to bust Tom's chops sometimes. He's great, but I do. He's got a great puzzle section.
Yeah, I definitely could not do the magazine without all the contributors. They would be impossible. They've made my job much easier.
Baytown Bert, he's hysterical. I love Baytown Bert. Now, and then somewhere in here, and I'm never very good at this, and so actually I'm not. I'm not one of the people that does it, but talk a little bit about wherever Spartacus is in this crazy thing and how that all began. It's a great story. Tell us about that real quick.
When I first started the magazine, somehow Chuck Seidlinger, who is Spartacus 06,
right,
he'd been in every issue. He was in the first issue, he was in the second issue, he was in the third issue, and at some point he said something to the effect of, "Man, I've been in every issue. I'm gonna figure out some way to get myself into every issue."
Right.
So, yeah, there he is. So,
and what's cool is you tell where everybody. What I like is that you tell us, the next issue is like, where was he?
Where
he was right there. Why didn't I see him? Oh my gosh! So anyway, go ahead. So that's how it kind of began, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So he was talking about that. So I said, I approached him and I emailed him and said, "Hey, you want to be in every issue for sure?" And originally we were going to have him. Originally, the idea was that he would go basically go photobomb people's photos, caching photos and things like that, and we'd put them in the magazine.
Right.
But that was a problem because he couldn't, he was only in one spot. He's up in the northern United States, and and everybody would know which photo he was in based on the location because he clearly wasn't going to be bouncing all around the world in the United States and everything. So
sure.
Then I decided it'd be easier if he just sent me a photo and I photoshopped him into different places within the magazine. So he's been inside a UFO and all over the place, and reflections and bumpers and reflections of people's sunglasses.
I love
He's always somewhere in here.
He's like, he had one buried in artwork not too long ago.
Yeah, well, not too long ago we had him. He was like a little cartoon Spartacus.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's a fun idea. And you do have some. He was with a baby. This one. Let's see if I can show this real quick, and then we'll move on. But he was in the baby.
Oh yeah.
I love that one.
I was assuming that person wasn't actually a geocacher, wouldn't be upset that I photoshopped Spartacus' head onto their baby.
That is awesome. Oh man! So now you've said before too. It's like when magazine comes out and people first get it. I mean, people are like on it. They want to. They're like they find it and they want to send it in. So all right.
The husband and wife teams will fight over the magazine to see who can find Spartacus.
Find Spartacus first. That's sweet.
The kids grab the magazine.
Yes. Now tell me about these and when did these begin? I'm about to show, and what is the genesis of these guys? And I'm showing a path
tags. Well, the pathtags.com guys basically made me an offer I couldn't refuse back when I first started the magazine. They said, "Hey, we'll give you a free path tag to give out to your subscribers to promote our business."
Yeah.
So the first one I did was just a generic sort of FTF tag.
Mhm.
And then I thought, well, this needs to be kind of a series. So the next one I did was a series called the Earth, Air, Fire, Water series. There was only 4 tags.
Mhm.
But as the magazine hadn't gone out of business yet, so I had to come up with more ideas for tags. And I was trying to think of exactly.
Ain't got a business. You're like, well, now I got to keep going.
Now I got to keep going. Exactly. So I was trying to think of something that I could go on, that I could create a type of tag that would be collectible,
Mhm.
but I would never run out of potential tags to do. And when I thought about the cryptids, there's hundreds of cryptids.
Right.
So, and probably new ones being formed as we speak.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
I showed Bigfoot. That actually, Keith, was my very first path tag ever.
oh, awesome.
So
Yeah,
that was
love that.
my first experience. And of course,
Bigfoot.
you got me hooked. So, now I've got,
You got my insects, my
insects. We'll talk about that in a minute. Yes. But I've got
Nemesis series, right?
the Geonemesis. We'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, I've got
it's a Kraken. Yeah.
the Kraken. And then I've also got, I need to update some of these. There's
Lizard
the
Man. Okay.
Lizard Man.
Now, I don't know if you notice on the Kraken, I actually spelled Kraken wrong. I used 2 Ks. I didn't realize that at the time.
Hey, it's really a collector's item now. And then you got Pig Eel. It's just come out, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the latest one.
Now
this is the one you get free.
Yes.
The magazine when you subscribe.
Yes, and in fact, I want to mention that here. This would be a good time to mention those, but that's the. I like the designs. I really do. And now, are you creating? Are you creating those, or are you kind of, because you're, like you said, you do graphic art work? Really,
yeah, I basically just I look at the cryptids Wikipedia page, and I look at sometimes I'll Google photos of whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like the Montauk Monster was a good example. You can get a ton of photos of that thing. It was some kind of animal that washed up on the beach. Right. So I just used the original photo and kind of said, okay, and did a little sketch and then traced it out in Illustrator, and then I send the artwork off, and it's a done deal. I've done pretty much the same thing with all of them. That's why, the Bigfoot is the classic Bigfoot pose from the most famous photo ever of Bigfoot.
Yes,
with him walking with that odd stance,
Yep, that one stance, yeah.
Yeah, so all of them, the imagery's there. I just have to go in and make a simplified version of it that'll work on the path tag.
Well, it works great. Path tags are not easy, by the way. I mean, I've got I did hours, but really I just used I hired somebody to do my graphic work for me, and so wherever it disappeared through, and it has eluded me. That's okay. But so I mean, those are not easy, because I did. Michael and I did one for Cache and Release, but when the first one I did of that as a path tag, the nice thing is they show you they're like, okay, here's you submit it to them, and you're like, and then they design it and they say, here's what you gave us, and it's like, whoa, that is not right at all, because it looked really
I know
bad.
exactly what you're saying. Sometimes they take their own little liberties with your tag, and you have to, a lot of times I won't even notice it'll be such a subtle thing. Yeah. I'll go back and look, and I'll say, oh yeah, they went and did this a little differently. I'm like, okay, that's fine. They're doing it in such a way to make the ink or the enamel flow well into the coin, and so I can understand why they would need to make small revisions to your artwork.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. It just until you've done one and seen how the process is, it takes a little bit sometimes to get it just right. But I like the fact that they allow for that. So yeah, I've got all the Geonemesis that I think I've got them all. I've got 5.
I don't know exactly how many of those there are. I've kind of fallen behind in creating the Geonemesis tags. I'm planning to continue making those as well.
Okay.
But I've got the Space Oddities series as well. That's an ongoing series that I've also fallen behind on.
What was the name of that last series you talked about?
The Space Oddities. And that one I have the Mars crab. It's all these things you see in photos of like the Mars face and all that kind of stuff.
I remember that.
And that's an interesting series too. That there's a ton of that sort of stuff going out there as well.
You can buy those, and then I've got this one. So talk briefly about.
Good for you. Thank you.
I did. That was for
that tag you only get for referring other subscribers. That's the bronze level. Looks like Geo Evangelist tag. So you refer someone to the magazine, and if they mention that you were the referrer when they signed up, I send you one of those tags. And if you send 3 people all together, you get another tag that's a silver version. Nice. And if you end up having 5 people say you referred them, you get a gold version.
I got to work on that. I really do.
Yeah, you're on your way. You only need 4 more.
I need 4 more. So everybody listening, if you do subscribe,
this may be cheating.
I know. So I'll start emailing.
I don't
people.
care. That's fine.
Oh, well.
Subscribe and get Gary his tag.
Absolutely. Help me out and let me get my tag out of that thing. All right, a couple things. I'm going to read this, and then we'll read a couple notes about what's going on right now, and then we'll talk about it. So this is a note that you wrote. It says, well, folks, it's that time of year again. Just wanted to remind you that nothing makes a more economical or appropriate Christmas present for your geocaching friends and family than a subscription to FTF Geocacher magazine. By the way, Keith, we mentioned you last week during our geocaching gifts section.
Awesome, thank you.
FTF magazine is a great Christmas gift. Now, here's what they'll receive. They'll receive the latest issue along with your bonus swag pack shipped out as soon as possible. Place your order now to beat the holiday mail rush. And on that note, yes, we've teamed up with the guys at Path Tags to offer you an extra subscription incentive. Renew your subscription today, and we'll send you a promo code for $10 Path Cash back on your next Path Tag order around after artwork approval. So I think I might need to update. Let me see. I'm getting close. I think I'm down to 4. Let me see where I'm at. Yeah. Oh no, I got 5 issues left. So after this next one, 4. So I could probably go ahead and renew. I would get $10 of Path Cash. Is that right?
Right. What happens is the cash is awarded with your next Path Tag order. So it's not like you get it right off the initial order, but you do get a credit to your account with your order. Cool. I want to make that clear.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah. And people are looking to, people are doing Path Tags more. I think people are doing them more than they were in the past. Mm-hmm.
This is something I'm trying. This idea of giving something back to the readers is something I'm trying to work with some of the other advertisers as well. So, I like the idea that you pay $24 for the magazine, and then you get $10 of that back if you happen to be a person who does Path Tags. Right. I'd like to find other ways to help other people get to, maybe some of the other advertisers can make some sort of offer to give something back as well. I really would like the magazine to be more like almost like a club where you get benefits or something like that. So I'm kind of working that angle right now, trying to get advertisers to include things. And for example, I've said, if you want to put something in my swag pack, a little sticker or a button or embroidered something or other, I'll be happy to include it. I'm not going to charge them for it or anything. They could just, send me whatever they want to insert into the pack, and I'll include it. And subscribers get it, and then it makes everybody happy. So they get exposure. The subscribers get more bang for their, or get more swag for their buck.
Sure, there you go.
And, so let's look for more of that kind of thing in the future. I'm really working that angle pretty hard right now.
Oh, very cool. What is currently in the swag pack that would go out to people that subscribe?
What I've got right now, there's a little geocaching. Well, let me see. I'll hold something up too.
Sure.
Along with the pig eel.
Yes, which I saw the picture of. It's awesome.
There's a Have You Found Spartacus little sticker. It's just a little sticker, no big deal.
Yeah.
I give these out with everybody. They're my little promo cards. They're a sample geo trading card. Some people can actually have these trading cards made up for yourself.
Right. that's a great idea to, I saw those as a really cool. It's a neat idea.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's something new I came up with. This is called a geocaching. I've created a little geocaching license.
I love it.
Just a novelty kind of thing. On the back, it says, I won't be able to read it now that I've got it here in the light, but it basically says things like, my seemingly erratic behavior is not for any reason other than I'm playing this game. And while geocachers know all the best places to hide a body, I am not actively in the process of doing so now. Just all these things that they have to certify to be a license holder.
Right.
So anyway, I tried to make it fun and something that people could write their little geocaching nickname on and show to people.
Right. So when you get stopped by Leo, you can go, officer, I have a license to be out here doing this.
That's exactly right.
Flash your badge. Here's my geocaching
exactly
license, sir. I am licensed to do this. I don't know.
And I'm always looking, again, like I said before, I'm always looking for new things to put in the swag pack. So if any of the advertisers or anybody out there has a geocaching related business, you, for example, if you wanted to do a little round geocache talk sticker and insert it in the pack, you welcome to do so. I'll put anything you want in there. You can get these things printed up for practically nothing. So they make a nice little giveaway.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah. Appreciate you putting Geocache Talk in the magazine. That's been it means a lot to me that you're been a sponsor. It's a
win-win thing. We're all a community here, and we all need to help each other out. So that's the way I look at it.
No, very good, and I love it. And it's I liked. We're going to move on because I really want to talk for the next half hour about your trip and all the geocaching and hiking you did. That's really fascinated me. But last thing to talk about with the magazine. This I thought this was a fabulous idea, Keith, that you did. This is the special edition. I'm holding up for the audio folks. I'm holding up the Geocache 14er special edition you did that was handed out to everybody at Geo Woodstock. And I really love this. When I first saw that you did this, oh man, it had the schedule in it, but it had like the map. Oh, I dropped it. Hang on. All right, I got it. It had the map in it that I'm showing, which is really cool. And there was, just so very well done. This little magazine. I don't know. Did you get any comments about this when we were there, or? Well,
I mean, this is something I started doing. I've only done 2 of these so far. The first one was for Geo Coin Fest in Houston.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And the idea basically is that I have the ability to create this thing. It's sort of like a program for your event. And what we try to do is get advertising in it to pay for the cost of production. For me, it's basically a promotional item that and this is another perfect example of the win-win idea I'm saying. I create this thing for the event. I get exposure as a result. The event gets a program. We hopefully get advertisers to pay for it, or we work it into the cost of the registration pack or something.
Sure.
And everybody comes out ahead. They get a nice little souvenir take-home piece that's a branded magazine. And I thought it was a really good idea. And I've got I probably can't say right now because it's not a done deal, but I think you'll be seeing another one of those coming up this year.
Oh, awesome!
Possibly more than another one, depending on who else might decide they want to do one.
Okay, so they should contact you if
anybody doing a mega event. I'm happy to do those for your mega event if we can find a way to pay for them.
Okay, absolutely. That's wonderful. It's a great idea. Yes, I loved it.
That issue was particularly good because of the Joe GPS tribute. That was really well written. I can't remember who did it off my head, but it was a very nice tribute, and it made that particular mini issue a real keepsake.
That was Brad Simmons, Monkey Brad.
Yeah, he did a great job with that.
You talked about the godfather of Geo Woodstock. Fascinating.
Exactly.
A fascinating story, and just a wonderful, like you said, wonderful tribute to a great geocacher. It's funny. This is what happens too sometimes. Keith and I, I was running around. It was my first Geo Woodstock, and I was trying to promote Geocache Talk and get all that going. And I did wander by and shake hands with Keith for about a second. I waved it. I shook hands. I said, "You're doing great." And it's frantic. It really is. I don't know.
I'd like to have had more time to chat, but I was overwhelmed. I once my booth opened, I was filling orders all day long. It never stopped. And I only got a break when they took the big photo, the group photo.
Right.
And then it was right back in nonstop all day long.
Yeah, that's something that I need to remember for 15 if I end up, if we plan on going, but if you're there, or just people in general that I would tend to would like to spend some time with. You can't do it at Geo Woodstock. You really can't, because it's just frantic. I was able to spend a little time with Sonny and Sandy before the event, and Joshua and Justin, the GC Doc, and some other people. But I wanted to, some people that I see David Rives from time to time, Drives Cache Closet. But again, I just walked by, said hi, and got out of his way because he was just he was busy as can be. But anyway, but wonderful. It was just a great time. I'm glad you did that. So all right, let's get into our the topic of the night, which is your trip, your month-long sabbatical. So tell me a little bit about how the planning began to do the Camino de Santiago pilgrimage, I guess is what most people did. I mean, it's a hike. Oh, go ahead.
Well, sorry. The idea, Volume 7, Issue 3, the title of the story was I Would Walk 500 Miles, and it was written by and this year she had done it. And as she was doing it, she kept a WordPress blog about her journey, and it just looked amazing.
You broke up a little bit. Go back for a moment and tell that part again. I'm sorry. Go ahead and start over again about where it started. Sorry.
If we're having audio problems, try switching. I think we're having some audio problems. Let me try switching quick.
Okay, no problem.
Bear with me while I try an alternate feed.
That's fine. You do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Camino de Santiago. I did some research on it after Keith and I talked about him being on here and talking about this trip. Interesting. It says I found a website that talked a little bit about the Camino. Officially, the Camino is any passage in Europe that leads to the city of Santiago de Compostela. You have to help me if I get these terms wrong. Essentially, it starts at your doorstep because anybody can go to, you can start anywhere to get there. But most people refer to as the Camino de Santiago as just one of the routes called the Camino Francis. Is that right?
Frances, yes.
Frances, okay. So and that's how you sort of started your trip. Is you started basically in France.
Exactly.
Okay, so go ahead. So
I think I've switched over to an alternate Wi-Fi here, so maybe we're good. Are you hearing me okay now?
Yep. So far, so good. We're good at the moment. So that's great. So all right.
Okay,
so
I've got a little. I've got a little bit of a delay from my end, as you can see.
That's okay. That's all right. So talk a little bit about again how this got started, or how you thought about doing this, and then kind of begin the process of how you you kind of the genesis of it and how you got started in getting to Juan Pied de Port, France, to begin this trip.
The idea came from Annie Love, who's a lackey at Groundspeak. She wrote an article for Volume 7, Issue 3. It was the feature article in the magazine called I Would Walk 500 Miles.
Yep.
And earlier this year, she did the Camino de Santiago, and I read her blog as she did it, and it sounded like a fascinating, amazing thing. And basically, once I heard about it, just like geocaching, I became obsessed, and I had to do it. I just couldn't let the idea go. So I booked the flight to France, and off I went. It was amazing.
Drag the wife along.
For part of it. She didn't join me for the whole thing, thank God.
Oh, she did part of it? Okay, well, good. So you're a good man not to drag her through all of that.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like part of it is kind of, fairly grueling. You go through the Pyrenees Mountains. So talk a little bit about just the hiking in general, and we'll get into the geocaching and some of the stops here in a moment. But just in general, the hiking, how grueling of a hike per day do you think this was?
I'll tell you about my first day. I got up before dawn and hiking through the very steep streets of the town itself I was just in, hiking up. I'm like, wow, this is very steep. I get to the edge of town, and of course I stop and find the geocache that's in the old ancient wall as I'm leaving the town. And my idea was that, heck, I'm gonna be geocaching this whole trip. I'll be finding caches along the way, and I was very gung ho and very optimistic about my ability to do so. As I leave Saint Jean, I start up this extremely steep hill, and I've gone probably half a mile, and I have to stop, and my heart is racing, and it's like this really difficult thing I'm doing. And I'm thinking, I've got 18 miles of this.
Right.
And it was just up, and up the whole way. I've heard people say that anybody can do the Camino de Santiago, anybody, any age. I do not agree with that. This thing was extremely difficult. It's the hardest thing I have ever done in my life.
Wow.
Just getting to like the first third of the way, I just felt like I'd made this great accomplishment. Just when I got to there was a little, there's a place where you stay called an albergue, and there was an albergue at Orison, about a third of the way up the mountain. Mm-hmm. And just reaching that point felt like a major accomplishment. But yes, this thing to say it was grueling is an understatement. It was, by the time I reached the end of the trip, I was completely destroyed. I could barely walk.
Wow. Yeah. I looked and I should find it. And maybe I'll put a note in the show notes. I was doing some of the research on it, but they showed, most people probably seen it, but it's like a map of the elevation changes that you go through. And it's like, holy cow. It's like, it's like way up, way back down, kind of back up. Mm-hmm. It's like you go through these very steep elevation changes and everything.
Exactly. But when I first started looking at this 18-mile trek across the Pyrenees, I was thinking about average walking speeds. So I thought, well, average walking speed's 3 miles an hour. I should be able to make this in 5 or 6 hours. What I didn't realize was that I was walking 1 mile an hour when I was going up these steep inclines, and I was walking half a mile an hour going down these steep inclines, because it was even worse than going up, which was hard to believe.
Right.
As geocachers, we've all done really extreme terrains. We've all hiked up really steep inclines. We've all gone down ravines. We've all done that. It's nothing new to us.
Right.
But it's different when you're doing it for 3 miles at a time, rather doing it, for a cache here, a cache there. So after hiking, 12 miles up the mountain, and then going the rest of the way down, your knees were destroyed. It was just, it was amazingly hard.
Now the route that you were on, is it the path? Is it? I've seen signs that they put up and all that, but is the whole thing fairly well marked as far as so you don't get lost as far as staying on the Camino? Is it even up in the Pyrenees? Is it? Did you feel like
it's very well marked?
Okay,
unless the fog rolls in.
that's true. Which or rain. I saw a couple of your things
which is what my experience was.
So you never got off did you feel like did you ever get off the path, do you feel like, and had to go back, or did you?
Yes, I took a wrong turn at one point and had to retrace my steps, and it was in the fog. It was very scary. I was up there by myself. I think I was pretty much the last hiker up the mountain because I was taking one photo after another, stopping a lot. And there got to a point where I'm thinking, man, this is getting to be a serious situation.
Yeah.
But luckily, I ran into a couple of guys. One guy from Denmark and one guy from Amsterdam, and they helped me get down off that mountain. And it was quite an experience.
Wow.
And the guy from Amsterdam ended up walking with me the entire 500 miles.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
It was very amazing.
So, you started. You flew over there, and you started in Spain. Found a cache in France, so you got the French souvenir. So then you started the process again of walking, through this. Now, in the process of doing that, of course, you logged, or I wouldn't say blogged. You put on Facebook a lot of good information and did a lot of photos. It was really cool to see. So you're saying you would stop at points and take photos. Do you? And then how you said the one guy from Amsterdam stuck with you? Was there other people? I mean, you meet. You obviously met lots of different people that were doing the Camino. Yeah. Which how is that? How's the process or how was the experience of meeting people from all over probably all over the world? Right? Did you?
It really was. It was amazing. We were by day 4 days into this thing. I had a group of 8 or 9 people. At one point, we swelled up to 12 people. They were all walking together, sharing laundry duties and sleeping in the same room, and just it became like a family. I mean, just right off the bat, within just a few days. On day 1, I met Johan and Dane, and on day 2, I met Julieta and the 2 Polish kids.
Yeah,
and on
awesome.
day 3, and by day 4, I had 3 more people from Spain, Gregorio and Paco and Santi, and I had Maura from Holland. And by day 4, we're in Pamplona with this group of people that I felt like I've known all my life, and I've only known them all for a few days.
Right, that's awesome.
And it really was an amazing thing. It was so much more. I mean, I expected it to be social, but I didn't expect my little group to form up around me that quickly. We just all just gelled together real quickly. It was very, very nice.
That's neat.
And I wanted to mention one thing. You mentioned, I found the cache in St. John, and I mentioned before I was planning to do a lot of geocaching during this trip.
Yep.
What I found was that if the cache was more than 100 feet off the path, I was too exhausted to go get it.
Right. I understand.
It was like, this thing better be right on the path.
Right.
Well,
you found quite a few. I mean, and we're gonna talk about a couple of them here. But so the way the Camino is set up, and this is another question I had was, they have places that you can stay that are designed for people that are doing this hike.
Exactly.
Did you have a list, or how were you able to sort of navigate through the different parts of the trip? As far as would you just kind of would your little group, the Keith gang, would you guys kind of walk until you basically couldn't do it anymore, and then say, okay, where are we going to stay? Did you kind of try to plan a little bit, or how did you kind of work out the?
With the we had I started out the trip with a guidebook. It's a famous guidebook for the Camino called the Briarly Guide.
Okay.
And it breaks the trip down into, I think, 33 segments.
Okay.
So you basically have, if you want to follow the guide, you know exactly where you need to be each day to get to Santiago in 33 days.
Right.
Because we joined up with a man named Gregorio on day 4 in Pamplona. Actually, we joined up with him earlier than that, but he became our guide. He'd done the Camino 12 times already. And so he knew,
wow, that's awesome.
He knew all the best places to stay. He knew all the best places to eat. And so after that happened, it's like I'd planned to learn some Spanish along the way, but by the time this guy joined us, I didn't need to do anything but follow him.
Wherever he's going, stick with him. That's awesome.
So, I had an app on my phone that I could use as a GPS to follow along in the route if I got lost or off track. But for the most part, I relied on the other people. We would notice when one person was going off track, and they would holler up ahead and say, "Hey, the arrow's going this way,"
right?
And we correct ourselves in terms of where we were going. But it was for the most part pretty well planned out. When Gregorio joined us, he had a specific route that actually allowed us to pick up an extra day, so we were able to do it in 32 days instead of 33.
Very cool. Because how many people? That's hard to say, I know, but is there a lot of people that do the Camino, or was there a lot of people doing it when you were there? I guess is my question.
I was doing it in what they call the shoulder season. It was actually a time when, most people in Europe, they can do it on their holiday, which is in the summer. Right. So a lot of people are doing it in this brutal heat of the summer, which I had no interest in doing. I wanted to do it during a time when I'd rather it be freezing cold than out there risking heat stroke out there. People die on this trip all the time. There were 2 people that died while I was on the trip. Died in the Pyrenees. At the very end of my trip, somebody died of hypothermia out there, and it's I don't know. It's I've lost my train of thought. What were we talking about first?
Just the amount of people. I mean, is there?
Oh, the numbers. That's right.
I guess it would vary depending on if people are doing.
Yeah, there were days when I hiked when I saw 2 or 3 people on the trail.
Wow. Okay, I thought there'd be more, but
there were days when I saw a lot more as well. I mean, it really depends. It depended on the weather. One day I hiked in the rain. I was by myself the whole time. This was I say I'm by myself because when it's kind of hard to explain. It's a long story, but at one point when my wife joined me, we fell behind, then my wife had an injury that caused her to drop out. Oh no! And I spent 2 days catching up to the group again. Basically, I hiked 64 kilometers in 2 days to catch up to the group.
Wow!
And it was the thing about it though is by that time I was so accustomed to it. I was so it's like I got like getting your sea legs or something. It's like I could do more than that if I had to, but at that point I'm like, okay, we're going to try to catch up. Wow. Yeah, I didn't quite catch up until we got to the very final spot, to Santiago itself. But at the end, we were all together again after a couple of days of being apart. But what I was getting at was one of the days when I was by myself, I hiked all day long in the rain, and I saw maybe 2 other people.
Right. Amazing. Well, well, let's. I'm going to do a screen share, and we'll have to talk through it too, because we got the audio people too. But we're going to show some of these things as well. So let me share the screen, and all right. Can everybody see that? Can you see that? Okay, Keith.
Yeah.
Okay, great. These are some of your finds during that time, and I think we want to start with this one, Monumento El Pellegrino. Yeah, talk about this geocache a little bit.
This cache was located on a ridge line. It's probably one of the most famous places on the Camino. It's a ridge line where there are a series of cutout metal sculptures.
Right. That's what I pulled up off the gallery some
I can
photos.
see that. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. So interesting.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about this cache. If you hey, there's Annie.
Hey,
Annie's the one that inspired my trip. She's the one that went on earlier this
yeah,
year, and
there
that's what
she
I think
is.
we got cut off when I was explaining that part. But
Yeah, about Annie. Yeah, and I read the art. It's in the like you mentioned. It's a great article in the magazine. So, and people can get back. We're gonna jump back real fast. You can get back. You can, if you don't have a certain volume, can you ask for that volume? If you have any left, you'll send somebody that.
Yes, they're available on the website.
Okay.
And just while we're at that, just to explain kind of what I'm doing now, I have turned over all of my previous back issues prior to Volume 7 to the guys over at Space Coast Geocachers, or Geocaching.
Oh, yeah, cool.
So if you want old back issues, you can get them through those guys, because I got tired of storing them all in my little mini warehouse.
Right.
But I do still have the current issues, the Volume 7 issues, 7 1 through 4,
Okay.
and 7 5 is the one that's actually being printed and mailed right now.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. Okay, that's good. So if you want to get Annie's article about it, as well as you've got
Volume
some information.
7, issue 3.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. You can get that. You can order that one. So, all right. So, they've got these metal, kind of cool little metal art. And so the cache, I guess, is that still the container?
Hold on to that container there for a second, because I get this thing, and remember, I've been hiking all morning. I'm exhausted. I get up, finally stagger up to the top of this ridge line.
Right.
And there's a food truck up there.
Oh, wow. A food truck.
Like, hey, food truck, what do you know?
Wow.
So I go up to the food truck lady and I say, "Donde está el geocache?"
Mm-hmm.
And she rolled her eyes.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And she says, and then she kind of reluctantly kind of tilted her head to the side to indicate it was back behind the truck somewhere.
Oh, okay.
And
asked that before.
Yeah, I didn't order anything from the poor lady, but I did go down and start searching for the cache, and it took me quite a while to find it. And the thing is, that container there that you're looking at,
mm-hmm. Yep.
It was hidden in a bush along a very popular hiking trail. And do you know what happens behind bushes and very popular hiking trails?
No.
I actually emailed the owner of this cache. I'd forgotten to log this until just today. So I actually included an email to him saying, "Dude, you need to move this cache to a little teeny tiny bush that's nearby,
right,
that nobody can squat behind."
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. It's a fairly large container for those that are
a fairly large container, but it was surrounded by toilet paper. I had to pick my way through. It was not pleasant, but
change the difficulty and terrain rating on that geocache.
Exactly. I did find it though, and I did sign the log there, and I finally got around to logging it today when I realized I hadn't logged it on the trail. But I was still exhausted at this point. It was early on, and I was still really hurting.
Right.
I felt wonderful after I found this cache. It was like it was just enough of a break. It took me about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so the hike down the mountain from that point was so much easier after that point.
Look at that shot.
That looks like the view down to Puente La Reina. I think it's Puente La Reina, which was the next town I was going to. And you can't even see it in that shot. It's 6 miles away. And it just, that was the other thing about this trip. It was so amazing, the different distances we covered every day. It boggled my mind when I looked at it after the fact.
Wow, amazing! You do. I mean, these are photos obviously from them, but you have some great photos too. Here's another shot. Left on the page. So, just wonderful. I mean, as far as the countryside, I mean, you were probably like, I think you mentioned on the Facebook, you're like, I kept stopping to take photos, and it was one of those kind of crazy things where, how do I keep going? I keep wanting to stop and take photos, Yeah.
At some point I just had to say, okay, look, there's another amazing scenery.
Yeah, I know.
Another amazing a photo op, and nah, unless it's like super amazing, I'm not even gonna bother.
Right. Incredible. All right. Which one of these next ones do you want to?
I think the one, I think it was Paso Honroso. I'm not certain.
I think we made a note of that. I'm not going to
If
translate
it says something in my log about being the caching with a first-time cacher, that's the one.
Yeah, we're watching. You can see the pictures. Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Let me stop sharing for a moment. Let me share again. Some reason why. Oh, I know what's going on. I'm sorry, Keith. Hang on one second.
Okay.
I am very sorry. Thanks. Susan Brutt came over. Let me jump back, and this is my fault. I have to make sure when we screen share. That is my fault. All right. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, I'm new at this. All right. You can see it now. Everybody can see it.
Okay.
So let me go back. Okay, we won't go back to live. Let me show the photos real quick on this one again.
Okay.
Just so I can share a bit what we're talking about. So there's the container. And there's Annie with the metal art. So hopefully I'll bring up the chat room. Is that good now? Are we good? Can we see now? All right. Hopefully everybody can see now. Sorry about that, folks that are watching. Yes. Okay. Tom says Tom Brotherman's in the chat room.
No.
I know. We won't get into that, but no, I love Tom. So there's Annie talking about those metal art. Very cool. And some of it, like I said, we talked about that. I'll show you the Vista shot. No, that's not the best one. I like this one. Just amazing. So when you're at this point, is there enough towns between stops that you're able to sort of get water, get food? I mean, was there any kind of was there a point where you're like, okay, how much further are we going to go till I can like refill water, or is there any kind of situation like that you ran into?
It varied. I mean, often, we only went a few miles between towns, and then other times it might be 10 miles before we saw anything. Okay. Usually it was just a few miles, or 5 miles at the most, maybe. But there were some sections where you had to be careful about how much water you carried, and be a little more diligent about that.
Okay. Let's see the gallery on this guy.
This is the right one.
Okay. This is it.
On the cover of the current magazine,
which I will bring up,
which you have, I believe.
I'm going to bring that up. There it is.
On the cover, this is that cache, Paso Honroso.
Oh, okay.
And the two people you see on the front cover there are Anya at the up on top of the wall, and Jarek from Poland. They were a 19-year-old boyfriend-girlfriend couple that I met on the first day in Roncesvalles. We all shared dinner that night because they have a communal kind of dinner thing. And Jarek came up after me and said, "You seem like a nice guy. Do you want to walk?"
That's awesome.
And I said, that was the worst Polish accent you could ever possibly
No, that's
get.
okay.
It wasn't even close to what Jarek sounds like.
we get the idea, Keith. That's all right. That's okay.
But I'm like, oh, sure, but I was still so beat up, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to keep up with you guys. That kid, if you look at his backpack, he was carrying probably 50 pounds on his back, just an amazing amount of weight, and his girlfriend was carrying almost as much. I mean, you'll see all the stuff just strapped to her up there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought there's no way I'll keep up with this guy. And by the next day, we're hiking along, and sure enough, I'm like, dude, you're gonna have to leave me behind. And this kid wouldn't leave me behind. He's like, he went over and he cut down a sapling and made me a walking stick.
That's awesome.
And so here I am hobbling along with my homemade pilgrim staff.
Your geo staff now, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I carried that thing all the way to Pamplona, and then this kid goes and he finds me 2 hiking poles at the local hiking store, and so I ended up going by and picking those up as well. But at any rate, he got interested in the geocaching part of it. So I started showing him, what geocaching was all about. And this photo was taken of him at that cache, basically logging his first find.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great fun, and he was a lot of fun to hike with, and we went all the way to the end together. When I got to, because I'd lost a little ground and tried to catch up to the group at the very end.
Right.
Yarick was the one who came and gave me a hug at the last minute when I walked through to the church and actually arrived. He was the first one to come greet me.
Right.
It was great fun.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah. In fact, let's talk about. Well, let me show you this is a photo of you in here. This one's called the Promise. And one thing I noticed is Spanish geocaches. Oh my gosh, look how long some of these are.
Yeah, they are super long.
That's great. I mean, but it's
at least that one has the English embedded in it. Some of them were only in Spanish. So it was like, well, I have no idea what you guys are trying to say.
Right. Some of your logs are kind of funny because like, I don't know the hint. I'm just going to wander around a little bit, and I actually found it. That's awesome. Here you are. There you are. Okay,
this is me at the end of the earth. This is a cache I found at Finisterre, and back in Roman times, this particular point was where the Romans thought the end of the world was. Basically, you look off to the west, and you're looking towards home, or at least for me, looking towards home, looking towards the United States.
Sure.
But it's a very, very long ways away.
Oh, yeah.
And this particular cache, I had to hike about halfway down this point. It wasn't anything major, but definitely was a little more challenging than anything else I found on the Camino. But just gorgeous. This view doesn't really do it justice, but that was I believe the further clearly the farthest westernmost cache I found in Spain.
Right. Let's see if we can go back up. I'll go back up to the gallery real quick. We might grab just a couple photos here. So, there's a cool. Look at that.
Yeah, that tower there. Well, I say that tower. Actually, that may be wrong, but there was a tower at the site that it was part of an earth cache. You had to guesstimate the height of the tower. Okay. And I was able to look at the height of a man. The tower had alternating white and red markings. And I was able to see that each of the segments was a little higher than a man's height. So I was able to calculate the height based on that.
Right. Wow, there's a great shot. Somebody took a sunset photo.
I've got some sunset photos of that place. They're just amazing.
Amazing. What gorgeous landscape out there. So there's somebody who took a photo of their look at that photo of that out there. Just amazing. All right, so you did a lot of traditionals. You did a couple earth caches, and we're going to kind of wrap up talking about earth caches. There we are. This is kind of interesting. This is the traditional. Well, not traditional. This is the end of the Camino. The trail is the church, the cathedral, Cathedral de Santiago. So talk a little bit about
Santiago is supposed to be where St. James is entombed. Right. And the whole the whole path to Santiago is marked by scallop shells. You see them on all the waypoints and everything, and they'll be embedded in the streets. You'll see little metal ones embedded in the streets. And the idea was that when way back 1,000 years ago or 800 years or however long it was, the story was that his sarcophagus washed up from the sea or was recovered from the sea somehow, and it was covered in scallop shells, so it became the symbol
Okay.
of St. James.
Right.
And so and there's a whole long back history clearly to this.
Oh yeah, there's.
That I couldn't possibly go into now, but
No, it's a whole
the
story.
idea is that St. James is entombed in this cathedral,
Yeah.
and that you make pilgrimage from wherever you happen to be in Europe or wherever, and to come and pay respects to his
Right.
his final resting place, I guess.
Yeah, interesting. Little interesting Catholic history. If anybody's interested, I find it interesting reading or hearing about and reading about some of these things. So anyway, but we're not going to get into that tonight. But and there's but the church looks like it's a gorgeous church.
It's funny. I was looking at this thing on my iPhone, and I don't remember seeing those images of the granite grains.
Yeah.
And that was one of the questions they asked in the Earth Cache about the grain size. And I kind of just winged it and said, well, I think this is large grain.
Right. Sometimes,
I'm just now for the first time seeing that image where he shows the grain size. And I guess I was supposed to use that to figure out the answer to the question. But he allowed me to find. So I guess I got it right.
You were there. That's good. Yeah, there's some different things there. Oh, well, there you are. What do you know?
There I am.
Amazing. So final thoughts on the Camino for you. I mean, I was it people always talk about it as a trip of a lifetime, but for you, do you feel like it was a trip of a lifetime?
Absolutely. I encourage everybody to go do it. It was so amazing. It was, I tell people it's the hardest and most wonderful thing I've ever done. It's really hard to put it into words, what the trip is like. I was telling, this is the nerdiest thing ever, but I was telling someone that it was like there was an episode of Star Trek.
Okay.
where Jean-Luc Picard is beamed off the bridge of the Enterprise, and he goes and he lives this entire life on this planet, like he grows old and everything. And then after after the end of his life on this planet, he's beamed right back to the same spot he was on the Enterprise. And that's what it felt like for me coming home. It's like, my God, I just lived in this alternate reality for a month and a half of my life.
Wow.
And it was just a complete removal. It was like I lived a whole other lifetime. Mm-hmm. And the thing that was really amazing to me, and what I liked about it from the very beginning, this idea of the camaraderie and meeting people from other places, and kind of really deeply immersing yourself in these multicultural experience. Just that, it was just.
It's kind of surreal. I mean,
it was so unbelievably rewarding, and just it's hard to put into words. But if you have an opportunity to do it, go do it. But make sure you train for it. I thought that I would be fine. I thought, hey, I play tennis all the time. Yeah. I had all these ideas about being able to do this thing, and they were not realistic. And if I had trained a little bit, even if I just gone and hiked down the beach, for a week, I would have had an easier time of it. But it's definitely worth doing, and I would encourage anybody who has the opportunity to do it to go give it a try. Wow. Just make sure that you are prepared.
Yeah. Now you could, if you were to do, if you plan, let's say, because I'm in better shape than I was, but I'm not in the greatest shape. If I plan, say, number one, I could do part of the Camino. I wouldn't have to do all of it.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't get the certificate. You got a little certificate at the end, which is kind of
cool. You can go. The plan my wife had before she had a hip injury that acted up and she had to stop. But the part that my wife had planned to walk was 75 miles.
Okay.
It's the minimum distance you can walk. It starts from the city of Sarria. Okay. And it's the minimum distance you can walk to receive credit for walking the Camino.
Oh, no. Okay.
So there is a simpler option.
Right.
Of course, I wouldn't do that option. That's
Camino Light. Well, that's you. Come on. That's just how you are. But could you do the 500? Because you did almost exactly 500 miles. I mean, you were
Exactly. It was.
Um,
Well, I know it was at least 500 miles because of
yeah,
all the walking,
backtracked.
all the extra walking I
Right,
did. I mean, it was 485 linear miles. I'm certain of.
right, exactly. You know that part.
Plus all the vertical up and down. I don't know.
Right, right, exactly. So, could you do the trip in more days, and just not? Could you do it maybe say in 40 days, and
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely, yes. In
spread
fact,
out a
you'd
little
probably
bit?
have a lot more fun doing it in 40 days because
Okay,
you basically you can go 5 miles, or you can go 10 miles, or you can go 15 miles, or you can go 20 miles. However,
okay,
I mean, because there are places all along the way where you can stop and you can find a place to eat, find a place to get a bed,
right.
and yeah. So you can do it as many days as you want. The two guys that I ran into from Great Britain did it in 28 days, so they were really making good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, depending on your fitness level, I mean, if you want to do it on a bike, 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if people did. It's a good thing to bring up, is I didn't know you could bike it. Nothing of mechanical. Nobody could motorcycle it, or you basically
No.
they don't allow you to do anything like that.
You could ride a burro if you wanted to.
Okay, that's a cool way to go. Okay, awesome. Neat. Well, we got to finish real fast with the sock story, because I actually I teased the sock story, but you did have a couple. You did have a couple issues. One, we're going to wrap up the tonight with, which is getting through customs. And tell us real quick about your. I feel so bad. You had some serious. I guess they're serious. You lost some. The poles that you got.
It wasn't a big deal. It was not a big deal. It was, yeah.
But you lost. You didn't get to bring your poles back.
Yeah, there was the security confiscated some of our stuff, but it wasn't any big deal.
Okay.
It's funny when Gary mentioned the sock story, I was like, sock story? What is he talking about?
Yeah, I read all your posts, man. I'm up on all that.
Yeah. It took me a while to figure out what he was talking about, and finally I realized he was talking about my final day of my trip when I was coming back from Madrid, Spain. I'm getting checked through customs at American Airlines, and not only had I already gone through all this check before, through the regular metal detector and everything, but they were like hyper checking people at the American Airlines counter. I had to go through a whole nother line and like 2 checkpoints. And then this guy says, "Hey, you got selected for additional screening.
Congratulations."
And yeah, the way he said it was like, "Oh, great, I get a prize.
You're the winner."
So,
they should give you a prize at the end. I mean, they made you like strip down and everything.
So the guy gets me down there, and here I am unpacking my pack and everything. And then I think the way I put it in the site was that I got my revenge on them because he asked me to take my shoes off.
Right.
And I had been wearing the same socks for 3 days.
That's awesome. That'll get them.
So yeah, that serves you right for making me take my shoes off. Awesome, yeah, they made me go through my whole bag, and I was explaining things. On top of that, I had stolen contraband in my bag because my wife had taken a blanket from one of the airplanes.
Right. Like, I'm bringing that back, and then
yeah, we're bringing back the blanket now.
Here's the blanket. Take that. Here's my GPS, and don't ask me what I'm using the GPS for. That's another story.
Right.
But,
all these weird things in my pack.
Well, you've been back for a while, as we were talking about earlier, and you feel like you've kind of recovered a little bit. That's good. In case people are wondering, I didn't even really mention this at the beginning because I know this, but people are kind of like, if they see you on the video, whatever. Keith lives on a boat, so he literally lives on a boat. In case people are wondering, like, where is he? But you do. You live on a boat. That's awesome.
This particular spot I'm in right now is actually the pilot house. I should have a big wheel in front of me right now.
Right, exactly.
But because my boat doesn't go anywhere, I just made this my computer station.
Works great. It's a boat that doesn't go anywhere. But it could. You could, right? Or what's the last time?
I could put the wheel back on at any time, but
Okay,
the
good.
boat's not going anywhere.
You're docked. You're not dry docked.
Exactly.
But you are docked. Okay. Well, great. So coming soon, next week, as I mentioned, Doug McRae is going to be on the show, the inventor of Ms. Pac-Man. And we're going to talk about this whole story of how that came about. It's a really cool story to hear about from Doug. So we're gonna do that next week. As I mentioned, Christmas night, I'm gonna do a mini podcast. Ask Geocache Talk. So send me your questions. Otherwise, it's gonna be a very short show. New Year's night, I'm gonna do another one, kind of a mini podcast. We're gonna talk about geocaching gifts that maybe people got during Christmas holiday season, and I'm gonna look ahead a little bit to 2017. Talk about different megas, different possible trips that people could take, plan for the Camino, different things like that, right? Plan ahead for a trip like that. Normally I'll mention 3. I'm going to mention a couple other ones. Just Geocaching with Derek will be on after that for show number 31, and then Nick will be on for show number 32. Again, Keith, thank you so much for being on the show.
I enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. Always great fun talking to you. So everybody, we hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Please email your comments and don't mention the fact that I screwed up the share. I know I messed that up way too often. I'm sorry. I'll get better at that. But we did correct it. My lovely wife came down and gave me a note. So I'm so glad she's there to kind of help. So we kind of we kind of fishtailed for a minute there, but we kind of got back on track. But anyway, send me your comments, geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Geocache Talk and Facebook, facebook.com/Geocache Talk. Show can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, as well as the Geocache Talk website. And don't forget to click on the subscribe button below so that you can hear the show on a weekly basis. And again, don't just talk about geocaching. Do what Keith did. Maybe not do exactly what Keith did, but maybe you need to do what Keith did and do the Camino and do a little geocaching along the way. So anyway, all right. Well, good night, everybody.
Good night.